I would like to begin by thanking the organizer for inviting me. I wish I was present in person, but I take the opportunity to record my presentation and will answer any question that may arise. The title is the World Soil Day, Perseverance, Opportunities and Challenges. I would like to begin by explaining where the World Soil Day originated from. It was International Union of Soil Sciences, which was created in 1924 as the International Society of Soil Science, and it is a link to World 60,000 soil scientists. Its centennial celebration in Rome is coming up in 2024, and this society organized its congress in 2002 in Bangkok, Thailand. That is where the World Soil Day was proposed. The Congress adopted a resolution intended to celebrate the importance of soil as a critical component of the natural system and as a vital contributor to human well-being. Why 5th of December? 2002 World Congress of Soil Science was held in Bangkok, Thailand, inaugurated by His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej, the King of Thailand. The date of December 5th was chosen by IUSS to honor the official birthday of the king, who officially sanctioned the event. In December 2013, Food and Agriculture Organization Global Soil Partnership unanimously endorsed World Soil Day and requested official adoption at the 68th UN General Assembly. And the General Assembly in December 2013 declared the 5th of December as the World Soil Day. Therefore, I congratulate each one of you and wish you all a very happy World Soil Day. The IUSS in 2015 also adopted International Year of the Soil, which was declared by 52nd session of the UN General Assembly on December 20th, 2013, after recognizing December 5th as the World Soil Day. The purpose of the International Year of the Soil was to raise awareness worldwide of the importance of soils for critical ecosystem services, such as food and nutrition security, sustainable agriculture, adaptation and mitigation of climate change, carbon sequestration, water quality and renewability, biodiversity, poverty alleviation, and of course, the sustainable development. International Decade of the Soil, which is 2015 to 2024, was adopted on 5th of December 2015 at its headquarters in Vienna, Austria. And the International Decade of the Soil will end in 2024 at the centennial celebration of the Union. The major activities include publishing one book per year on a theme of global significance for the general public and the policymakers, and secondly, giving an award of the Distinguished Service Medal of the IUSS to a policymaker who helps translate soil science into action. So it's not an award for a scientist, it's for a policymaker. That brings me to the concept of sustainable development goal as soil-based system that can only be achieved if soil is managed properly. For example, the goal number 2 of ending hunger, goal number 13 of climate action, goal number 15 of life on land, and to a major extent also ending poverty, goal number 1. Number 3, good health and well-being. Goal number 6, clean water and sanitation. And goal number 7, renewable energy. There are in fact more goals, especially number 17, justice and peace. They all depend on sustainable management and restoration of soil health. Indeed, soil health is critical to water resources quality and quantity, climate change mitigation, adaptation, stabilization, food and nutritional security, both quality and quantity, and the biodiversity. 25% of all biodiversity is in soil. Soil health indeed is the engine of economic development. One other concept which is very critical, that the health of soil, plants, animals, people, environment, and the planet is one and indivisible. If the health of soil goes down, as many past extinct civilizations realized probably later than they should have, the health of everything else goes down with it. Therefore, in addition to socioeconomic factors, food security research must also address environmental and resource management issue, especially the fragile and finite the soil resource and its management. That brings us to the focus of regenerative agriculture. What is it? It's something inspired by eco-innovation. It's powered by non-carbon energy. It's driven by a circular economy and green infrastructure, and supported by the recarbonization of the terrestrial biosphere, that the soil and vegetation as the bedrock of sustainable development. Soil carbon sequestration to improve soil health as the bedrock of sustainable development. A system of regenerative agriculture is the one that encompasses a wide range of farming and grazing practices, not just one. These are aimed at restoration and sustainable management of soil health through sequestration of soil organic carbon, which is often depleted in agroecosystem to as much as 30 to 40% in the Midwestern United States, maybe 75 to 90% in developing countries of sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, Caribbean, and many else. The question many times asked, is regenerative agriculture applicable? It's not a question of whether it is applicable, it's a question of how to make it applicable so that regenerative agriculture can be adapted to produce enough food, be a negative emission technology, and also advance the sustainable development goals of the United Nations. Organic matter content in soil, as I mentioned already, is depleted in many soils. Below the critical range, there is no one critical range, it varies widely, but in general, we consider it somewhere between 3.5 to 4% organic matter content. And if it is below that, then the productivity and the useful efficiency of the inputs is much less, and it improves with increase in soil organic matter content until it reaches the critical range. Regenerative agriculture system then are the system that reconcile the need to produce adequate and nutritious food with the absolute necessity of restoring the environment and making farming a solution to environmental issues through eco-intensification and producing more from less. That is what regenerative agriculture is, producing more food from less land, less water, less inputs of pesticides and fertilizer, less use of energy, and less emission of greenhouse gases. The idea is to save land and water for nature. We are already using 5 billion hectares of land for agriculture, 1.5 billion for cropland, 3.5 billion for raising livestock. That is far too much. We must save land, return back to nature by producing more from less, by adopting science-based agriculture. In terms of carbon sequestration, as we clear natural vegetation to convert it to agricultural ecosystem, the soil carbon stock generally declines because we are adding less biomass carbon and the carbon is being eroded, perhaps by wind and water processes, but at the same time increased mineralization because of the soil disturbance. In temperate climate, normally 50% is reached within about 50 years. In the tropical ecosystem, the 50% may reach in 5 to 10 years, especially if the erosion problem is very serious. At that point in time, if you adopt better agriculture practices, such as conservation agriculture, no-till agriculture, over a generation time scale, 20 years perhaps, it can reach an attainable level, reach another equilibrium. At that point in time, if you adopt another better practice following the same sigmoid increase curve function, it can eventually, in a period of 40 to 50 years from the time when we began better agriculture, we can really come closer to what the original level was. In some cases, dry land, for example, or soil which are acidic or lack calcium or phosphorus or some essential element, it is possible to go beyond the original level, but only in those very special cases, not everywhere. So in this function, if we know this response function, we can determine the slope of the line, delta y or delta x, with the rate of carbon sequestration. We can calculate the sink capacity of where we are and where we can be. We can calculate the mean residence time of carbon in soil, dividing pool by flux. And this recarbonization can be achieved by several practices, such as conservation agriculture, no-till farming, such as biochar application, agroforestry, desertification control, afforestation, better pasture management, water harvesting, drip sub irrigation, improved farming system, but recognizing at the same time that each of these practices have their own carbon and water footprint. Therefore, we must adopt those practices which not only increase the input of biomass carbon into the soil, but have also lower carbon footprint by doing business. And we must calculate the net gain. So one of the ways I mentioned, input of biomass carbon, no disturbance, conservation agriculture, growing a cover crop, suppressing it, and seeding crops through it without plowing. As you see in the picture here, growing a cover crop, especially a leguminous one, which can fix nitrogen, and at the same time realizing that increasing carbon in soil will reduce the dependence on chemicals, NPK, because it will increase their efficiency, reduce their losses into the environment, and have soil health better to make use of the input system in a more efficient way. The rate of carbon sequestration with better management is very good for wetland restoration, for plantation and afforestation, maybe 1 ton, wetland maybe 1.5 ton, for management of lawns and turfs and recreational facilities, including golf course, home lawns, maybe 0.5 ton per hectare, no-till ranging from 100 kilogram to perhaps 1,000 kilogram per hectare, average somewhere between 0.3 and 0.5 ton per hectare, rangeland being in dry land, if you manage them properly, probably 100 to 200 kilogram per hectare. These are the kind of rates that we normally observe. If we were to adopt better agricultural practices from 2020 to 2100, the average rate of carbon sequestration in all soils of the world is about 2.5 gigaton of carbon per year. The rate will vary depending on how the soils are managed. But if we take the cumulative technical potential between 2020 and 2100, the rate of carbon sequestration in soils summed up, total together, 178 gigaton in 8-year period. Combine that with forest, improved afforestation, better plantation, better management of forest resources, fire management, etc., another 155, together 333 gigaton. That translates into drawdown of atmospheric CO2 of more than 150 parts per million by the end of this century. But this cannot mitigate complete emission of the anthropogenic activity, including fossil fuel, which is already more than 10 gigaton per year. So we must find non-carbon fuel sources. And then if we adopt better agriculture and land resource management practices, we can mitigate anthropogenic climate change by the end of this century or next century. We have an option to do that. That brings me back how to use natural resources properly. Cereal production globally at the moment is done on 700 million hectare. There's a call that we need another 250 or even 500 million hectare more to feed the population by 2050. Absolutely not. If we manage the existing land properly, especially in developing countries, where we can bridge the yield gap by adopting better agriculture rather than expanding horizontally, we can return some land back to nature. From cropland, cereal land, 200 million hectare. From grazing land, maybe more than even a billion hectare. Similarly, fertilizer use. We have 200 million ton used now. Efficiency of nitrogen fertilizer in a best case scenario, maybe 40%. In a poor case scenario in developing countries, maybe 20%. With better soil health, with improved management, with the better formulation, we should aim at reducing the fertilizer use, improve the efficiency, grow nitrogen, reduce losses, and water use the same way. We are using 3,150 kilometer cube of water for irrigation of 350 million hectare globally. We can replace flood irrigation by micro irrigation, drip subfertigation, increase the area but reduce the use of water. In fact, by less than 1/3 by the end of this century. So the goal is to reduce land, fertilizer, water, pesticides by improving soil health through restoration of soil carbon stock. Use the best, save the rest for nature. That brings me to the question of farming carbon. Growing soil carbon as a farm commodity that can be traded, bought and sold, and create another income stream for farmers. It can also be paid through ecosystem services by the societal value of soil carbon. I'm not talking about the economic demand and supply, what the inherent ecosystem services that soil carbon creates. That cost at the moment is considered about $130 per ton of carbon. That's $35 per ton of CO2. If a farmer sequesters in soil or vegetation half a ton of carbon per hectare, that's $65 per hectare per year, $26 per acre per year. If a farmer sequesters 1/3 ton, that's $43 per hectare, $17.5 per acre. That's the societal value. Farmers and land managers being the greatest stakeholder, the greatest steward of natural resources should be rewarded, should be compensated at this rate for improving soil health and quality. I'm very pleased that the resolution at the Senate floor put up by 4 senators in June this year, Senator Brown, Senator Stabenow, Senator Graham, Senator Whitehouse, is reached attention, in which the language is the agriculture and forestry sectors hold the potential to serve as a critical climate solution. I'm glad with that language. At scale, agriculture and land use practices can sequester carbon at as low as $10 per metric ton of CO2 equivalent, making it the most cost-effective carbon sequestration method currently available. That's the language in that resolution. It's absolutely correct, and I'm glad it is happening. What we need right now is to complement EPA's existing Clean Air Act of 67, Clean Water Act of 1972. We need Healthy Soil Act now, so that agricultural sustainability can be ensured. And along with that, rights of soil, just like any other living entity, soil has also right to be managed, restored, protected, and judiciously used forever. That requires prudent governance. That requires policy intervention. That requires a farm bill that provide facilities to achieve that. That requires empowering farmers, the land managers, to use the soil the best way that the science can provide the knowledge to do it. I'd like to, at the end, wish you all a very happy Soil Day. I wish I was there in person. but on behalf of the Carbon Management and Sequestration Center, where we have adopted the logo "In Soil We Trust." Have a great conference. Have a great celebration. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. Be safe and healthy. Goodbye.